Ever feel like your team's workflows are, well, getting in the way of the actual work? Today, we're going to dive into something called FlowOS. It's a really minimalist, human-centric framework that promises to just cut through all that bloat and get you back to what really matters, delivering value. So let's see how it actually works.
All right, so let's just jump right in with a question that, might feel a little too familiar. Do you ever get that sinking feeling that you're spending more time managing your workflow than, actually doing the work? Like you're trapped by the very system that's supposed to be helping you out?
Look, if that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. So many popular frameworks, like Scrum or SAFe, they often start out with really good intentions, but pretty soon they can just turn into this mess of bureaucracy. They tie you to these expensive, complicated tools, and in the end, they just slow you down.
So this really brings us to a huge contrast in how to approach work. You've got the old way, right? It's rigid, it's totally dependent on specific tools, and a lot of the time it relies on US cloud services, which, that brings up some big questions about data sovereignty. But then you have the FlowOS way. It's the total opposite, human-centric, tool-agnostic, meaning you can use whatever you want, and it's super lightweight. Plus, it's built from the get-go with EU data sovereignty in mind.
Okay, so what's the antidote to all this complexity? Well, it all starts with a really simple, super pragmatic philosophy.
Right at the very heart of FlowOS is this great Dutch saying, goed is goed genoeg. It basically translates to good is good enough. Now, hold on. This isn't an excuse to be lazy or cut corners. Not at all. It's about being effective. Think of it as a rebellion against that perfectionism that just stalls progress and stops you from getting things done. And this whole philosophy boils down to 4 key principles. First up, ship when you're at about 80%, and then iterate based on what real users are telling you. Next, really internalize the idea that done is always, always better than perfect. Third, the whole framework is tool-agnostic. Seriously, it works just as well with a whiteboard and some sticky notes as it does with fancy software. And finally, it puts data sovereignty front and center, which is a really big deal for organizations in the EU.
Okay, so that's the philosophy behind it, but how does that actually translate into a real, workable structure that a team can use? Let's break it down.
Well, everything is connected through this really clear hierarchy. It all starts at the top with a long-term vision. We're talking 12 to 18 months out. Then you break that big vision down into quarterly objectives for both management and the team. And finally, you achieve those objectives through super focused, actionable key results in these short 4 to 6 week cycles. What's so great about this is that it creates a straight, visible line from the big picture strategy all the way down to what you're doing today. The workflow itself is like a journey through 3 distinct zones. First, ideas pop up in the strategy stream. That's where leadership goals get validated. But then they have to pass through the discovery gate, and this part is absolutely crucial. It's like a bouncer at a club. Here, ideas get seriously stress-tested and prioritized based on their impact versus the effort needed. Only the best, most promising ideas get through that gate and into the execution engine. And that's where the team can just focus 100% on building and shipping.
So how does all this actually come together in the real world? Let's walk through the step-by-step process.
Okay, so it all starts with making sure you're solving the right problem. FlowOS uses that classic 5 whys technique. So you don't just take a goal like, say, reduce onboarding drop-off and run with it. No, you ask why is that happening? And then you ask why again. You do this 5 times to really drill down past the surface level symptom to find the true root cause. It might be something you never expected, like a button that's just really hard to find. All right, so once you found the real problem, how do you decide what to tackle first? This is where the impact/effort matrix comes in, and it's brilliant. You basically map everything out. Anything that's high impact but low effort, that's your golden ticket. It goes straight into the do now box. It's a way to be absolutely ruthless with your prioritization and just focus the team on getting those quick, meaningful wins right away. And to keep that focus laser sharp, FlowOS has this incredibly powerful constraint, and it's just one number, 3. A team can only work on a maximum of 3 key results for each objective. That's it, no exceptions. It sounds simple, but this rule is so crucial. It stops teams from spreading themselves too thin and makes sure they actually finish what they start. Another really cool innovation here is how it handles roles. In FlowOS, you don't have these rigid, fixed job titles. Instead, think of them as temporary hats you wear. So one quarter, you might be the vision guardian, making sure everyone's aligned. The next, you could be the builder, deep in the code. And here's the absolute best part. These roles get rotated all the time. Just think about what that does for a team. It completely demolishes knowledge silos. It builds real empathy across different functions. And it creates a team that's way more agile and resilient, where literally everyone gets the bigger picture. So does all this theory actually hold up in the real world? And maybe more importantly, can you really do it without a bunch of expensive tools? Let's check out a case study that answers that question with a big, loud yes. Okay, so picture this. A nonprofit has a super common problem. Users are signing up, but then they're just dropping off during the onboarding process. But here's the twist. They had a very uncommon constraint. Their budget for any new tools was exactly zero, nada. And this is where that whole tool-agnostic idea really gets to shine. Check out their entire toolkit. They used a whiteboard for the 5 whys. They used plain old paper notes for the impact/effort matrix. A free, secure document was used to collect feedback, and they tracked data in a basic spreadsheet. That was it. That was their entire tech stack. And the result? Well, in just 6 weeks, with that budget of $0, the team managed to get a 10% reduction in user drop-off. That is huge. And it's just powerful proof that real transformation isn't about buying more software, it's about changing your mindset and your methods. So that leaves us with one final thought. A question for you, really. What could your team achieve if you just let go of perfectionism? If you ditched all that bureaucratic overhead and focused only on what truly delivers value? What could you get done by embracing that simple, powerful idea that good is good enough?